Ladies and gentlemen, as you guys know, with every new season, one thing that I like to make a video about is the best loadouts for Warzone. And the reason why I do that is because generally speaking, every single season, one, new weapons are added into the game, and two, there's generally a very large weapon balancing update. And with Season 4, that is no exception. There's some brand new weapons to the game that are definitely some of the best weapons in the game. And on top of this, they made a lot of changes to individual weapons, but also attachments as well, which will take some of the best weapons and actually change some of the attachments that you actually use for them. So what we are going to be doing today is going over all of these different loadouts, the best classes for each individual weapon, the best perks to use, and everything in between, just like we do with every season, so that you can be at the top of your game for Warzone. Now, before we do that, I know what you're thinking. Inkslasher, why are you looking so damn good today? And first of all, thank you, I appreciate it. But the real reason is because of GMG Performance Eyewear. Now, they've sponsored the channel before, and they are back again because they have a great product. And as you can see, these glasses are great for everyday use, especially if you are on the computer a lot, playing a lot of video games. If you've ever had the experience where you've been looking at a screen for hours, your eyes start to become red, itchy, these are perfect for you because they block blue light. Now, many of you may not know, but blue light comes from all of the screens we look at, and it's actually really harmful for your eyes. For the long term, it can literally cause you to have worse eyes, or in the short term, it can cause that itchiness and redness that we talked about before. And these glasses actually block that blue light, so make it so that you can look at your screen longer without taking any damage, and on top of that, make it so you don't get that itchy red eyes. Now, on top of this, GMG has a bunch of different designs that you may like, so be sure to check out the website. And on top of that, if you want to check these out, if you want to get yourself a pair, right now they are doing a 40% off sale for the next 48 hours, but only for the next 48 hours. So click that link down in the description, go check them out and get that discount while you still can. Protect your eyes and look good doing it. And thank you, GMG Performance Eyeglasses, for sponsoring the video. Now, every time we do one of these videos, I try to do it a little bit different, and this time's no exception. Basically, what I'm going to be doing here is giving you my 4 favorite classes, and then at the very end, I'm going to give you a couple other weapons that you can kind of throw into the mix that will kind of complement all of the other classes that we have talked about. The one other thing that you're not going to see on here is the C58, the new assault rifle. I personally just don't like this weapon that much. I find that it has too slow of a fire rate, personally for me. That being said, it is still a decent weapon, and if you want to use this new weapon, these are the attachments you should use: agency suppressor, task force barrel, axial arms 3 times, the 55 round mag, and finally the airborne elastic wrap. This is basically the best loadout for it, but it's not really one of the best weapons in the game right now. That's why it's not going to be in any of the classes that we look at. Speaking of which, though, let's dive into the classes that I am actually using right now this season. So starting out with a kind of classic class where you have an SMG and an assault rifle. The 2 weapons that we have here are the Pharah and the Mac10. I'm going to quickly go over the perks and the lethal and tactical that I personally use. So first of all, I use EOD. You can switch this out for double time if you're not running into a lot of explosives. After this, I'm using overkill to use 2 different main weapons, and then amped. Amped is a must to be able to switch between these 2 weapons as fast as possible. This is basically the only crutch perk that I have on every single one of my classes. Make sure you're using this one. Trust me, it makes a huge difference. Now, after this, we have the thermite. This is something that I've switched to a while ago after the C4 was nerfed, and then I use a heartbeat sensor. I like to say that one person on a team of 4 or a team of 3 should be using a heartbeat sensor. The rest probably flashbangs. So that's kind of why I'm using the heartbeat sensor. I'm the person using that. Everyone else is using flashbangs or something along those lines. Now, as far as my weapons go, the first one that we have here is the Pharah. This is currently, in my opinion, the best weapon in the game by quite a long shot. It's great at long range, very little recoil. As far as the attachments I'm using, the GRU suppressor. This is for that extra bullet velocity, damage range, and of course, the sound suppression. The vertical recoil control is nice, but it's definitely not needed on this weapon. After this, we have the Spetsnaz barrel. Once again, we're getting recoil control, and then the effective damage range and bullet velocity are the important ones because this is our long range weapon on this class. After this, Tiger Team Spotlight. You're going to see that this is absolutely something that I like on most of my weapons. It increases the move speed, which is really important. And then after this, we have the axial arms 3 times. It's basically the long range scope I use on all my assault rifles. And then the Spetsnaz 60 round, because I'm playing quads a lot, we need those extra bullets. As far as this weapon goes, essentially what you need to know is that it's currently the best weapon in the game. It's probably going to get nerfed in a coming update, so use it now while you can. The reason why it is so good is, one, it has really good range, so people at long range you can pick off very easily. And in conjunction with that, it also has a good fire rate and very little recoil. And that's kind of the key, which you'll see with a lot of the good weapons in the game that you use at long range, is that low recoil, and that is really what's going to make them excel for the large majority of your gunfights. On top of this, it's a pretty good weapon up close. Now, the weapon that I am pairing it with is the Mac10. This is a weapon that we have used for a while. My class setup is a little bit different than it was last season, so what I'm using here is the sound suppressor. Pretty straightforward. I'm using this to stay off the radar. We're using it up close, so we don't need the agency for the extra damage range. Because I'm only using it up close, we can use this one, which has better sprint to fire speed, which is a very, very good thing. Now, on top of this, we are using the task force barrel to make up for that dropped range from the normal suppressor. That Tiger Team spotlight, once again, for the move speed. Similarly, the Raider stock, this is for your sprint to fire time. Again, this is going to be our up close and personal weapon. And then finally, the 53 round drum magazine. So this goes in conjunction with the Pharah. The main reason I use it is right up close and personal, and for a weapon that I can move around the map a little bit faster with. Because you have the slower move speed with the assault rifle, you pair it with an SMG, you run around with that. If you get in a long range gunfight, you use the assault rifle. Short range gunfight, you use the SMG. The next class we have is extremely similar, but this time, once again, with an SMG and assault rifle, but this time the Krig and the new weapon, which is the nail gun. So as far as this goes with the Krig, we are going to be using, once again, that agency suppressor for that extra range and some recoil control. The Ranger barrel, this is going to improve your bullet velocity and recoil control as well. Tiger Team spotlight for the extra move speed. The axial arms 3 times is pretty much what we're going to use on everything. And finally, the 60 round mag, because we are using this in quads. Now, you're going to want to make note of this class setup. The main reason is because I believe they're going to nerf the Pharah soon, and once the Pharah is nerfed, this will be the next go-to assault rifle. Again, very low recoil, good damage range, good rate of fire, and because of all of that, it excels. You're going to be able to outgun sniper rifles if they miss a shot. So keep note of this. As soon as the Pharah gets nerfed, this is going to be the new best assault rifle. Now, what I am using it with is the nail gun. Now, as far as the nail gun goes, there is no attachments on this bad boy. You just use it as is. So this is a really interesting weapon because, first of all, I really enjoy it. It has a really good time to kill, and this might get nerfed soon as well. So you'll have to pay attention to the patch notes and my update videos for when that actually happens. Now, the good thing about this weapon is it has an incredible time to kill up close. Of course, it shoots projectiles, so it's a little bit more difficult to use, but the real downside isn't that. It's that it has a very small magazine. So if 3-4 people push you all at once and they're all up close and you pull out the nail gun, you're not really going to be able to compete properly with them because you're going to run out of ammo and have to reload, and it has a relatively long reload time. So because of that, you basically can only take on 1, maybe 2 people at a time because it does have a good time to kill. Now, those people you do fight who are 1 or 2 people will drop really fast, and because of that, it's a really good gun. You just have to be very careful with how many people you're getting into a gunfight with, but it's probably my favorite SMG right now just because it's fun to use. Now, the next class we have is my sniper class, and as far as this goes, I'm using the Kar 98. You can use the Swiss. The Swiss is very similar to the Kar 98 now with the recent updates. I just prefer this one because I am used to it. Now, the other weapon that I'm using with it is the Milano, and we'll talk about that one in a second, but let's start out with the sniper. First of all, monolithic suppressor for that sound suppression and damage range, of course. The 27.6-inch barrel, again, damage range, bullet velocity. Bullet velocity is more important out of the two there. Then tac laser for faster aim down sights, variable zoom scope, because that's the one that I enjoy, and finally the Stippy Grippy for that faster aim down sights and faster sprint out time. So as far as the Kar 98 goes, this one is pretty straightforward. We talk about it every single season. This season is no exception. It has really great stats for the sniper rifles. The thing with snipers in this game is they're all a one-shot kill to the head, but the body is never a one-shot kill. So you might as well use the one that has the faster ADS, the better stats in the rest of the movement abilities, and that's the Kar 98 or the Swiss. That's why I'm using the Kar 98. Now, the second weapon that we have here is the Milano. Now, I'm going to explain why we're using this weapon in a second, but first let's look at its attachment. So first of all, the sound suppressor, again, we're using this on the SMGs. You can use the agency if you want to have a little bit extra range. This weapon has really good range, but I'm using the sound suppressor because it's my up close weapon. The task force barrel improves that damage range, bullet velocity, and strafe speed, so that's where we're getting the extra range from. Tiger Team for that movement, 50 round because we're playing on quads, and then finally the marathon stock because this is going to improve your sprint to fire time. Now, the Milano is the gun that is definitely going to need the most explanation. After the most recent update, this is probably the most versatile weapon in the game, and it's an SMG. It excels at mid-range and even beats out a lot of sniper rifles at mid-range, and then up close, it's also a pretty decent weapon. There are SMGs that are going to kill faster than it, but because it's so versatile, it's very, very good to use with a sniper rifle, because you got the mid-range, the short range covered by the SMG, you got the sniper rifle to cover those long-range gunfights. It's very nice, and if you haven't tried it out, I recommend it. I saw some people running it with the 3x scope. I personally don't like that. This is the class setup that I use, and I really, really recommend you giving it a try. So after this, we have our sweaty class setup, as I like to call it. This is the double assault rifle meta kind of thing. It's very strange to use these two weapons together because they can both be long-range weapons, but the way we have them set up is so that one's an SMG, one's an assault rifle, and they both have amazing time to kills at their given ranges. So we already talked about our Pharah class setup, and it's the exact same as the one we looked at before. It's set up for those long-range gunfights, very little recoil, very easy to shoot enemies. The different one is the XM4. So the way I want you to look at this is your XM4 here is your SMG, and in fact it outguns a lot of SMGs up close. That is why we're using it, and it excels at mid-range too. So with this one, instead of using the agency, I am using the suppressor because we get that extra sprint to fire time and we don't have any of the other negatives that the agency has. On top of this, we're using the Tiger Team Spotlight for the movement speed. Remember, this is our SMG. Now, I personally don't like the iron sights on this weapon, so I am using a red dot. I'm not using the 3x because we already have the 3x on the Pharah. The Raider pad, once again, for those movement speed benefits. And then finally, the 60 round mag, because I'm playing quads. We've said it enough by now. Now, let me explain this, because this is where things are a little bit weird. Because this gun's super good up close, you use it up close, and then the Pharah you use at mid to long range. It's very elegant. It works very, very well. In my opinion, this is currently the best class setup in the game. If the Pharah gets nerfed, you can very easily switch out the Pharah for the Krig setup that we talked about before. The XM4 is really, really good up close, and it's basically one of the best SMGs in the game. It's possible that it gets nerfed in that sense, but we would probably be looking more so the mid-season for when that actually happens. It seems weird. The two downsides to this class are, one, you're only using assault rifle ammo, which you may shred through pretty quickly. The other downside is you don't have that SMG for the extra move speed. So depending on how you're playing, if you want to play more aggressive, use the Pharah with an SMG. If you kind of just want to have the best guns in every situation, this is probably the class setup for you. So moving into the weapons that you can kind of just add to any classes, I don't really use this alone as a loadout. However, if you would like to use it, this is the MG82. This one is good at short to mid-range. It used to be incredible at long range too, but they nerfed the recoil. They also nerfed a bunch of the damage. It's not as good as it once was, but it's a decent weapon in the game. As far as this weapon, using it, you want to use the agency suppressor to add the range, add the bullet velocity, and some recoil control. As far as the barrel, I use the match grade for bullet velocity and then horizontal recoil and vertical recoil control. Field agent grip, same thing for the recoil. Since they added a ton of recoil, you want that recoil control. The serpent wrap for a faster ADS time, and then the 3x optic, and we've already talked about that one. As far as this weapon goes, I don't recommend it as a top tier weapon. However, I wanted to give you a class setup just in case you wanted to use it as a new weapon. It was incredible, and now it's just kind of outgunned by the Pharah, outgunned by the Krig. So it's not the best weapon by any means, but it is decent. Some of the other short range weapons you can use is, first of all, the MP5. I've been leaning a little bit more towards the Modern Warfare one these days. What I use on it is the monolithic integral, 5 megawatt laser, the Merc foregrip, the 45 round mags, and the collapsible stock. Basically, this is kind of like a good medium between fast movement and still being able to control the weapon. As far as this goes, the monolithic integral is absolutely necessary, and on top of that, I like the Merc foregrip for recoil control. This is a great up close weapon. It's decent at mid range, can't really use it at long range. However, there is another option, and that is the Black Ops Cold War MP5. As far as this one goes, I use the agency, Tiger Team Spotlight, field agent grip, 50 round drum, and Raider stock. This weapon is technically a little bit better up to 10 meters. After that, the Modern Warfare MP5 is better. So if you're only using it at super short range, use the Cold War one. That being said, I find it a little bit more difficult to control, the movement not as good, so I tend to lean, lately at least, towards the Modern Warfare one. So as far as what one you should use, essentially, if you're only using it within 10 meters, the Cold War version has a better time to kill. However, I find the Modern Warfare one easier to control, easier to use, and because of that, lately I've been leaning towards that one a little bit more. Both are good. It's just the use case that you are using it for. So those are all of the weapons that I'm currently using, the loadouts, the attachments, the perks. Let me know what you think of them down in the comments. I'm sure they're going to change, definitely at the mid-season update at least. Look out for a Pharah nerf. Look out for a nail gun nerf. Those are the two I think we'll be seeing in the near future. Let me know what you think of all these class setups down in the comments. If you enjoyed, hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all my videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're making this too hard. And I want